You are Danny White. You have to fire one of your major coaches: baseball manager / coach Tony Vitello, football coach Josh Heupel, basketball coach Rick Barnes, or women's basketball coach Kim Caldwell. This would have been a slam dunk, fire 3 and keep Heupel this time a year ago. Things certainly look different after the calendar has turned. So you have to fire one, Caleb. Make your argument for whom that might be.
So I understand everybody talking about the age factor to say Rick Barnes. I am of the mindset that in college coaching, it is high time we take the R. Kelly approach. No, I'm kidding. But I'm saying the album title that he gave to Aaliyah, which is Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. Which, by the way, he gave that title to Aaliyah for her album when she was 14 and he was 25, and then we found out they got married. Yeah, creepy. Anyways, I am saying we overrate age all the time in college basketball because you have no idea how long a coach is going to last. Yes, Barnes is 70. I still would fire Josh Heupel before Rick Barnes because I think this era of college basketball is conducive to Rick Barnes having a lot of success over the next 10 years that will surpass the success Josh Heupel is able to have in football over the next 10 years. I think the way Rick Barnes runs his program sets things up for him to have a lot more success in general. So I'm going Josh Heupel. I'd fire Josh Heupel because I'm not firing Tony Vitello. Tony Vitello just won a national title, and I'm not firing Kim Caldwell. I believe in her too much.
Volsman says Barnes would be gone. He gets closer and closer to the door after every inexcusable loss. There is that discussion, concern with Barnes that he gets there and he doesn't get it done. So it's not just the age thing. It's much more than that. I think this is a slam dunk easy. I think you have 3 programs that are in good shape and one that is in great shape. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Then it's Kim Caldwell. After 1 year, she's out the door. Like February 20th, she's out the door. And the reason is because women's basketball doesn't make money at the University of Tennessee. Now, if you want to say, let's go back, Dave Serrano, the baseball coach at the time. Well, then you've got a debate because both of the programs would be average compared to where Kim Caldwell is now. But right now you have 2 programs, neither of which make money. They don't produce revenue, and one is elite, one is not. It's slam dunk Kim Caldwell.
Okay, well, then let me phrase it this way. If you're going by that, I understand what you're saying. But let me phrase it this way. You have to fire a coach. And yeah, great point by General Rosa is exactly what I was saying.
Keep talking to pretend that's not there.
Dave, you have to fire a coach. And you can't have a drop-off within the program after you fire the coach. The program cannot take a step back.
Well, that's not going to happen, though, because if you fired Vitello, nobody would want that job. If you fired Heupel, you didn't give him long enough. If you fired Caldwell, they're like, well, they're really not dedicated to women's basketball. Really, the only one.
No, you don't get to make excuses. No excuses. Well, play like a champion. You have to fire a coach and try to make
one. I think the only one that you could make a change and not have a significant drop-off is men's basketball.
Oh, see, I totally disagree. I think we are underrating how bad things can get in men's basketball because of how Mike Slive has elevated SEC basketball as a whole. But we just talked about it yesterday. Dave, Tennessee had a streak. Tennessee literally over a period of 15 years, they hired Wade Houston, Kevin O'Neal, Jerry Green, and Buzz Peterson.
Well, and really Elias pointed this out too. If you fired them, it's not like I was thinking in my mind Rick Barnes retires, but that's not retiring. You're firing him. So no, that's fair. That's a very fair point. David says I'd fire Barnes due to lack of meeting postseason expectations. Heupel is a quarterback away from a championship or championship appearance.
What do we mean a quarterback away? Like Heupel has Nico Iamaleava now, and he had Hendon Hooker in 2022. I mean, I don't think the quarterback. I don't think he's been picking the wrong quarterbacks. I think he's been messing up elsewhere, quite honestly. Such as,
I do think he's been picking the wrong quarterback.
I think Nico's still a good fit for the system.
Well, I mean, we'll see, but I mean, you'd have to agree that he picked Milton over Hooker.
That was yes,
and
that was
and I think he should have picked Nico over Milton in 2023, and he would have had a lot more run on him, a lot more experience.
Well,
so I think I would disagree with your premise that he's making the right decision on quarterbacks.
Maybe for the sake of 2024, you might be right. But Dave, let me ask you this question, because we talk about Milton processing and how that was an issue. Are we sure Nico's not worse when it comes to specifically processing?
I don't think so. And here's why I say that, because when he's got a decent pocket, he's been much better than Milton. Milton, to me, had a fleeting sort of style. He was ready to leave the pocket because he was such an elite athlete. And I'm sure that he trucked about 50,000 dudes in high school. Okay. I mean, I bet he was just, I mean, like Bo Jackson at the high school level. So I don't think Nico thinks I got to run first. I think there's a different mindset upstairs.
Well, I think Milton's problem was Joe Milton's biggest problem, though, was he refused to take advantage of his run first when he was there in 2023. He's such a good runner, but he wouldn't want to do it. If he did, he probably could have been an all-SEC player that year for Josh Heupel.
My theory on that has always been it was so beat into him to stay in the pocket. It was almost
they misused him.
Well, they either misused him, miscoached him, or something. I mean, that's fair. And I think you and I've talked about it. I hate doing cardio, and I would never go to the gym if I did cardio. And if you forced me to do it, I'm going to be disgruntled the whole time. I think he was kind of disgruntled the whole time, or maybe just confused.
Possibly, but this is where you say, hey, if first read's not there, take off. Just do the quick read. If you don't see it, go. I mean, just go guns blazing. But like what we're talking about here is we're speaking ourselves into it, Dave. Josh Heupel's the one who should go in terms of the actual quality of the coach at their respective sport. In terms of the quality of the coach at their respective sport.
As a businessman, with being Danny White, I couldn't even dream of making that decision because of the financial repercussions.
Okay, but I'm saying in terms of who's the worst coach in their respective sport?
The worst coach in their respective sport based off resume would be Kim Caldwell.
But who do you think, based on not resume, but also projections?
At the end of the day, pelts on the wall.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, pelts on the wall. I don't think Rick Barnes is going to win a championship. I tend to think Josh Heupel will.
So you think Rick Barnes is the worst coach in their respective sports?
I know, and this is a discussion. That's why I don't want anybody to paint us as negative. I think this illustrates. I think this illustrates exactly what position Tennessee is in. I remember the late 90s thinking to myself, Tennessee's won a national championship. They've got Pat Summitt, the greatest coach ever. They're doing pretty good in basketball, even though they got a drunken head coach. And I was like, this is as good as it gets. This is arguably getting to that point. So this is actually a positive discussion.
Yeah, but if as good as it gets is your national championship is in baseball and not basketball or football, people are going to be upset about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you put this poll question up, would you rather have 10 baseball championships or 1 football championship?
Yeah, and everybody's going to say 1 football championship.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, getting the baseball championship for many Tennessee fans is checking something off a box. Like, all right, got another national title in one of the sports in the resume, and we're good here. Honestly.
Now, I will say I'm with David on this. And I wrote a column about this, about Heupel's offense. It was kind of like this. He took a gutted roster and made them competitive. He absolutely did. And let's not forget to give him credit for that. Maybe the next step is even more difficult, and we don't recognize that because you weren't an Alabama fan, you weren't a Georgia fan, but it took Georgia a couple of years to get over the hump of Alabama. And it may take Tennessee 2 or 3 more years of being at a competitive level, but not an elite level. And that's not the end of the world.
But how about this? And you're right. Heupel's a great I still think he's great X's and O's coach. I think his roster construction has not been good. Now, Dave, as a Cowboys fan, you were spoiled by Jimmy Johnson, where that was a head coach who knew how to construct a roster. Right? That was a head coach who knew how to construct
I think he's the best talent evaluator in the history of sports, and I think that he's the second best psychological manager behind Phil Jackson.
I could believe, and it's funny because they're both so different in how they coach too. Yeah. Because Phil Jackson is like Zen-like, and Jimmy Johnson is like, I hear players were scared to death of him on the Cowboys. But yeah, I think that Josh Heupel, the coach, is amazing. Josh Heupel, the what you would call GM, I mean, he's like Bill Belichick level almost with Bill Belichick. His last few years in the Patriots and Bill Belichick, we found out great coach, terrible at building a roster, absolutely terrible at it.
Okay, so are you saying that you're questioning his roster building ability?
Yes, I'm significantly questioning Josh Heupel's roster building.
Do you think they were short on talent last year?
I think they started the wrong people. They mishandled the depth chart, which is part of roster building to me.
Okay. I'll go there with you. I think it's funny you bring up Belichick. What did he do that was so, I thought, innovative? He utilized, two tight ends look, which Heupel has done. I thought that was very innovative last year. And he also, he utilized the little bitty receivers that were quick and could get open in space. So, yeah, final on the poll question. What is it?
By the way, we got to give Charlie Weiss the credit for the two tight ends. He was the one who kind of came up with that.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mean overall credit. I just meant it fit the game at the right time.
Right. That's a good point.
All right. So what's our poll question?
Poll question is if you had to, which of the 4 Vols major coaches would you fire if you had to pick one? Do you want the results?
Yeah, give me the results. Actually, first, let me tell you, because I'm excited for the results. Let me tell you about our friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. Best spas right there in Athens. Best chemicals for your pool and spa right there in Athens. Stop by, mention Off the Hook Sports, get a free Off the Hook Sports prize and $500 off. All right, so what's our poll question? Answer, results.
All right. If you had to fire one of the 4 major coaches of the Vols, who would you pick? Rick Barnes is winning by an outright majority right now at 53%. Josh Heupel and Kim Caldwell are tied for second at 20%, and then Tony Vitello is 4th at 7%. So nobody's firing Tony Vitello. Well, one person's firing Tony Vitello. That person is probably just like, I don't like baseball. So